They have one day. They have one day with the coaches interview with the media, mass interview. Then the second day, one was Monday, and then on Tuesday, all the general managers sat over the course of the whole day and got questions. I decided it'd be kind of novel to look at the AFC West and just detail what the general managers had to say. Joe Ortiz, the Chargers general manager, he met with everybody. Plain and simply says, we will get below the salary cap. When he was with the Baltimore Ravens as director of player personnel, they constantly were in churn, moving people off the roster because of salary cap things. His history is I'd rather get rid of a player a year too early and have that money to use than a year too late and get stuck with dead cap money that kills me. So I think there are going to be some roster moves there. Ortiz says, my whole philosophy in life, based on what he experienced in Baltimore, stockpile assets. Might that mean trade down from number 5? I mean, stockpile assets? That means building more that you got. Would they take number 5 of the Chargers and drop back some, maybe as far as 10, get an additional choice, a second round, maybe a third rounder? He says we will continue to be active in terms of free agents. He says we will draft. Then we will sign a pile of undrafted free agents right after the April draft is completed. Then in June, we'll sign another tier of free agents that will come to camp. Then when roster cuts are made in August, when everybody goes down to 53, we'll probably sign some free agents there. And he says we will continue to turn the bottom of the roster all season long. And why do you do that? You keep looking for gems. Can I find a guy that didn't get a good look-see in somebody else's camp that we always liked his athleticism? Maybe we come in and bingo, maybe we find somebody really unique. The offensive coordinator, Greg Roman, said, could you imagine what Justin Herbert would be like if the Chargers had a legitimate power run game? Mm-hmm. So that means they're going to change some things on the offense to help that quarterback. And the defensive coordinator came out publicly and he just said, plain and simple, Derwin James will have a defined role. We're not going to move him all over the field as Brandon Staley did when suddenly Derwin James just became a pedestrian, wasn't making a hell of a lot of plays. So that's what the Chargers general manager said. Tom Telesco, Raiders general manager. Devontae Adams stays. He is our wide receiver. He is a Raider for life. End of conversation. Josh Jacobs, big money running back, had another good season last year. He was late to camp. Team didn't do well early. They're not going to franchise tag him because the dollar value as a second-time franchise tag guy is just through the roof. They're going to try to negotiate a multi-year extension and get this thing done. The good part of that is Josh Jacobs has said, I want to stay here and play for this coach. And Tom Telesco was just glowing talking about Josh Jacobs. Of course, he saw him twice a year for the last 5 years when the Chargers played the Raiders. Telesco said, he is our top rusher. He's one of the best receiving running backs in the NFL, and nobody pays any attention. He's an exceptional blitz blocker. In terms of the Raider quarterback, they're going to do something, I think, in the draft. I think they're tired of renting these guys that sometimes work out, sometimes don't. He says, I want a quarterback who's a leader. I want a quarterback that's a student of the game. I want a quarterback that's accurate throwing the football, and I want a quarterback that's just smart. Still to be decided what they do with the veteran wide receiver. Hunter Renfro's got an $11 million cap number. Kind of got lost under the old coaching staff. Now, if they keep him, they're going to have to pay him a lot of money. But I think he's still got skill. They just got to find a way to make him fit whatever the new system Antonio Pierce wants to run. Broncos and Kansas City. Let's talk about the Chiefs. Brett Veach, general manager. We will keep our stars. Now, he's got an issue because he's got 2 big money free agents in the defensive tackle, Chris Jones, the best in the business, and L'Jarius Sneed, who's made himself a top cornerback. They just franchise tagged L'Jarius Sneed, and that's at $19 million. Now, I can franchise tag you today, but I can still continue to negotiate a multi-year extension to keep you. I lift the tag, and then I'll work out a deal that doesn't count $19 million against the cap. That's what Kansas City's trying to do with Sneed. They've also said, if we can't get a multi-year deal with Sneed, we'll trade him. We'll find somebody else, and we'll go get assets. They're going to get Chris Jones signed. The price tag on him is going to be about $25 million. And they just started to clear budget space. They just released Marquez Scantling Valdez, $12 million cap space gone. Despite what he did in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl, Didn't do very much during the course of the season, 2 years in a row. So that's the latest out of Kansas City. They got to deal with their top 2 stars. And in Denver, Sean Payton, quote, "We must get the next quarterback decision right." That, in essence, is a shot at the former general manager who's still there, George Payton, who did the Russell Wilson deal. We're waiting for Denver to make the decision to release Russell Wilson. $45 million cap hit when they release him because of the contract George Payton gave Russell Wilson. And Sean Payton said, "We've had no trade offers. Nobody wants $39.7 million of a contract." One thing he did say is, "We're going to try to get as many picks as we can." I've been told, they haven't said it, they're shopping the young wide receiver Jerry Jeudy and another big wide receiver, Tim Patrick. Jeudy just has never become a superstar. He makes big plays, but he doesn't do it on a Sunday-by-Sunday basis. Patrick has had 2 bad injuries 2 years in a row, still got great upside, but they're going to try to move some of those guys to make a transaction. So, John, that's what's going on in the AFC West, and your reaction to the GMs.
Yeah, just all these different teams. Let's talk about the Raiders, because they're the team that doesn't have a quarterback. And where are they in the draft? 13. So if you were to look at some of those top names, obviously Caleb Williams will be gone. I mean, who will be there, do you think, at 13?
That's a huge question. Bo Nix might be there, systems quarterback. Michael Penix definitely will be there, but who is Michael Penix? Is he Michael Vick? Is he Tua? We don't know. Then that's what film study is all about. J.J. McCarthy. But who is J.J. McCarthy? Big star or just a guy that handed off and threw some safe passes because Harbaugh's team was so great around the quarterback? So I think those guys will all be there at 13. And then you can get into the other discussion, although this goes against the grain of what Telesco said. If Denver blows out Russell Wilson, he'd be available for minimal money because Denver's paying the bulk of the contract. You could get him for the minimal at $1.5 million for the first year. But does that go against the grain of Telesco wanting a quarterback long range for the future rather than these short-term rentals? Raiders always did short-term deals. Oh, and sometimes they did work out. Rich Gannon was a great quarterback. Jeff Hostetler did a good job for them back in the day. But more recently, no, not at all. So I'll be fascinated to see what your Raiders, how come you're not wearing Raider gear? Your Raiders do at quarterback because they haven't had one. They do have Aiden O'Connell back, and he managed games. He was okay, but is he just a guy? I kind of think so.
Who was the last big-time quarterback the Raiders drafted?
Oh,
was it the kid from LSU about 20 years
Russell.
ago? Yeah, is that the one?
Oh, my God. That was terrible.
Yeah. And how long ago was that?
Well, I don't think it was 20 years, but it was a decade ago, and that was one of the monumental failures of many monumental failures that Al Davis made, always reaching for the shiny object. And he was a bum. I mean, he showed up and he was not. This is what I don't understand as it relates to, you're asking the voice of the Chargers and Seahawks, not to be critical of the Raiders. I don't understand with the methodology of evaluating players. In the NFL, they evaluate everything. What does he have for breakfast? How does he dress in public? All that stuff. In addition, can he throw deep and can he throw up and outs and all the passing tree? How they could not investigate that this guy had no work study habits as a quarterback. He just got through it on athletic ability at LSU. What kind of evaluation did you do? Because he got to the NFL and he didn't work at it and he had no clue about it. I mean, the stuff that I saw him throw, he was in the early 2000s, right as I was finishing up doing the Chargers and then the Seahawks side. I saw him in games and he was pitiful in terms of accuracy and decision-making and being late and just running. How do you not see that in your evaluation? What did you study him? I mean, so Raiders historically have done a horrible job modern-day football quarterbacking.
Well, I bet there's a lot of athletes across all sports that have done that, where they have gotten by because they've been this specimen, this Adonis, this muscular, beautiful, long athlete, and suddenly they get to a point where they need to have, a lot between the ears. And some of these guys have it and some of them don't.
Oh, it's a lot of guys. And the fatality rate, John, in quarterbacks in the first round over the last 20 years is spectacular.
It's
How
over
many?
over half.
Oh, yeah, more than half. And see what makes it worse, although it's under control now because they have a different structure with the salary cap. But wait, what made it worse in the Jamarcus Russell, Ryan Leaf era is those guys got mega money, and they killed you on the cap if they burned out, failed out, flunked out, got washed out, a.k.a. Jamarcus Russell and Ryan Leaf. And there's a lot more names I'd have to go through and do research because I don't have them right off the top of my head. But first of all, you can't make a mistake on a quarterback at the top of the draft now because it's a quarterback's league. It's not as fatal financially as it used to be, but that's a number one pick if it doesn't work out. What a disaster. Vince Young, one of the more modern day meltdowns. Great athlete, could do it all in college, but this ain't Texas you're playing anymore. And Vince Young scuffled and struggled.
Do you have confidence in Caleb Williams and Drake May, some of the top guys on this list? Do you think that they're going to have success?
The college guys that I network with on the East Coast say Drake May is just a big, tough, smart guy. He's a football student. That's what he is. He lives in the film room. So I got to believe, we've seen Caleb Williams firsthand, and he's just fanatical in terms of preparation. Just look at the end results, what he did at Oklahoma, what he did at USC. Even at USC, when he had no help at the end of that last season, the whole thing fell apart around him. So, yeah, I think it's a different cat now, a different breed of quarterback that we're evaluating.